who's taking some of the Hebrew classes and how are they going? And when you talk, tell me what level you're in and tell me about the class.
So if you would raise your hand and participants, I do want to call on everyone in order. So although I did see.
Raise your hand in the participant place,
Robin
not physically. Don't raise your hand
Right.
physically. Go down to where it says participants and raise your hand there. It's easier for Harold to see it there.
Well, I will say that I saw Robin Baslow's hand shoot up first. So I'm going to say Rabbi before I go to.
Okay.
Rabbi, go ahead.
Okay, so I'm in Beit, and she's a great teacher. And I learned parts of this in different decades of my life, but to bring it together is very helpful. So I'm great to be doing it.
Sherry?
Yeah, I'm also in Beit, and I think I'm coming from the other angle from Robin, because I became a B'nai Mitzvah adult, B'nai Mitzvah, and I've laned some, and I come to services, but I don't have the facility, so, and I've lost some of that initial learning. So this is, first of all, refreshing me, and second of all, the way she has the class together and asks people to volunteer, and the manner in which she explains everything, it's a wonderful class. It's very relaxed and inviting. She's great.
Fantastic.
Kenneth?
Yeah, I found that I had the work.
Tell us what level you're in, just so I know.
I'm in Bates with Sherry and Robin.
Okay, great.
And I realized I had taken it once before, probably with Brian, because I found the book after I ordered it. So I'll use the clean one without my answers in it. But the level of explanation is wonderful.
Great.
And she's fast, which I like. And as Sherry said, she does have the class cohere, even though we're fairly somewhat diverse in our levels of understanding. She's addressing all of that.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Laura?
Hi, I am taking Gimel, and even though apparently one would think I would not need this, I do. I have a relatively spotty connection with Hebrew on and off, so I can read it, I can speak it, but grammatically and vocabulary, it's not always.
Perfect.
So I figured I'd give it a shot and see how it goes. And I would say at this point, you know, about 20 to 30% was helpful for me. So I'm going to hang in there and see what happens.
Great. I think a lot of it is about framework and adding things, and fantastic.
I was at Gimel also, and I think that the first class was sort of like a warm-up exercise, how we learn and looking at roots. And I would say that Gimel is the level that your discussion is probably at a Gimel level. So if anyone here has been, anyone who's been able to understand the Rabbi as she's walked her through the roots and the words could easily take the Gimel level.
Right.
Here. Peter Klein.
Peter Klein.
Peter, you're muted.
Yeah, I'm sort of Baitish, Gimelish, having a sort of spotty education, and I'm like drawing from like a century ago to for some aspects, and from, you know, things that I always use. So I'm trying to find my level, and I think people in the class are doing the same. There are areas where I breeze through, and other things that, like roots, it's like, okay, your grounding from the suburbs isn't as firm as you felt. And there are other areas that are fun. So I'm trying out both this week, and I'll see where I land. I'm waiting for the books to arrive, and that may just consolidate things for me.
Right. Isn't it wonderful to feel like you're learning with no pressure? Just find the right place, stick to it. So was there somebody else, Harold, who has a hand up? I can't.
Well, I was going to remind people that it is not too late, that this is sort of the week to try out and people are switching levels. There is a Gimel class tonight at 6 o'clock. And even if you missed the first one, trust me, if you missed the first one, there'll be a little catch up. You did not miss anything that would preclude your starting with level Gimel this evening at 6 o'clock. Leslie Bernstein?
We're a dual family class. Fran is taking Aleph, and I had to miss the first session of Gimel, but I hope to be there tonight.
Great. So just so that you know, and this is so thrilling to me, In addition to those of us in the Psalms or the Pirkei Avot class, 110 people have signed up for summer classes at CBST, meaning but that's between the language classes and Rabbi Atara Cohen's two different classes. So has anybody taken either of her classes and can give us a little report?
Let's see. So Jeffrey Weiss raised his hand. Maybe Jeffrey's been in one of Rabbi Cohen's classes.
I've been in both of them, and I love her.
Great.
She teaches like on a level like it's not advanced. I don't feel like I'm over my head, and I'm able to understand, how she explains the different explanations and how to integrate that into what I know. It just is marvelous.
Fantastic.
So Judy Hollander says she is very calming, and Sarah Sloan says, I love her Talmud class. And Rabin Basla says, I'm going to CBST University for my summer vacation.
Wonderful. What a wonderful thing to do, huh, for the summer, to really take these
shirts and that sort of collegiate typeface.
Yeah, that would be very funny. That'd be very funny.
And the question as to whether the classes are recorded, I don't recall, but Mia said that she, if you need to miss one or two classes, that's fine. But otherwise, if you're going to have to, it's not really asynchronous distance learning. And she really likes to have people in the class with their computer on, so that there are, if you want to learn and you can't come to those classes, there may be other options for you. So it is now 10 o'clock, and we have Adria, who is going to be introducing her intro, and then we're going to go right to the offerings, because we are going to get through our Psalm 8 offerings today and move to Psalm, and next week we'll be moving on to Psalm 9. So Adria, you have the floor.
Good morning, everybody. I was challenged and stymied by the same challenges that Rabbi Kleinbaum has had, meaning fireworks, as I was based on Psalm 84. And as much as I wanted to include the fireworks as percussion, I just could not make it work. And so I had to pivot. So I have about 1 minute and 24 seconds of Bach for you this morning as an offering. It's the Saraband, which is the one of the slower Baroque dances that it actually was not a slow dance in its inception, but it became a slow dance during the Baroque period. And this is the Saraband from the first suite in G major without fireworks.
Wow, what a way to start today, huh? With some Bach played by Adria. Thank you so much, Adria. That's just gorgeous. Just gorgeous. Thank you so much. And so now we are, I think today we are going to continue through to the end of our personal offerings for Psalm 8.
We are indeed, and we're going to start with Donna Gray. Donna, if you can unmute yourself, and I will share the screen. And you can take us away.
Okay. For the lead player who plays all instruments all the time, a psalm of David. Adonai, Adonenu, our maestro. Harold, could you make it a little bit bigger?
I can, yes. Hold on. Let me see. Zoom 150%. Zoom in. How's that?
Better, thanks. For the lead player who plays all instruments all the time, a psalm of David. Adonai, Adonenu, our maestro. How awe-inspiring and magnificent is your creation on this earth. Your presence is everywhere, extending far beyond what we can even imagine. When we were babes with purity intact, we knew the wonder. We could echo our amazement to the elders who had forgotten until we too were old enough to forget. When I see the oceans and the mountains and the birds flying in the air, the fish breathing underwater, the trees exhaling the oxygen we need to live, the flowers, the butterflies, the insects, and all the varieties of life of which we humans are but one, all I can say is, what? Where did all this come from, and who is man to think that he owns any of it? Man, in his impotence, tries to play God, competing to erect taller and taller buildings that could never rival your majestic mountains. Who is he fooling? We've all seen man-made mountains crumble in clouds of white ash. Man thinks he has your mandate of yang over yin, white over black, large over small, rich over poor, conniving over clueless. But no amount of Tarzan's chest pounding will ever make him king of the jungle. An invisible virus has put this video on pause. While man is dying in droves, smog has lessened and fewer wild animals are being crushed on the highways. When will they ever learn, Pete Seeger sang? If only this could be the reboot. At this 11th hour, could arrogance give way to humility? Could we collaborate instead of stepping all over each other to be the best? Could nurturing triumph over domination? All voices are needed in the human chorus, especially the softer ones that have been drowned out by overblown shouting. And all of nature is a larger choir, badly in need of harmony. May we silence the static as we strain to hear your voice. Adonai, Adonenu, our maestro. How awe-inspiring and magnificent is your creation on this earth. May we know our place, as Mary Oliver said, in the family of things.
Wow, Donna, just magnificent. Speak to us a little bit. And we notice, of course, looking at the structure, that you've kept to this structure of 10 psukim, 10 verses.
I followed Alter, as my guide. And I did what he did of repeating the first line again at the end.
Which is of course in the Hebrew, as Alter tries to stay pretty close to that. Okay, thanks.
I'm following the English because I'm just in the Aleph class, even though I had a bat mitzvah. I need to start over.
Don't worry about that, but yes. So I'm just saying, when you're following Alter, you're following that original structure.
You know, for me, you know, I put, you know, first of all, a psalm of David, you know, to give a female perspective. And, you know, when I see man describing me too, I say, no, thank you. That is not describing me, because whoever decided that man should cover women was not a woman. So, you know, I put humans to mean everybody. human beings.
Mhm.
And man, you know, I had my commentary on, you know, patriarchy and male domination, which,
Mhm.
and, you know, there's something about, you know, my interpretation of Out of the Mouths of Babes. You know, there's a lot of wisdom that comes from children. And there's a certain point, you know, Sharon Golub probably notices this, a certain point at which the purity goes away and is covered over by um, um, subterfuge, masks. What we learn to protect ourselves and not be real anymore. So
Beautiful. Beautiful. And what to take this Psalm of creation and turn it into an environmental, to an environmentalist statement, or that's not the right word, declaration, you know, just manifest. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And I think it really gets to the heart of a piece of this Psalm beautifully.
you know, just thinking also of, there seems to be a competition in the world for who can build the highest building. This has 163 stories. Give me a break. Who cares?
Yep.
You know, does that mean that, you know, my building is bigger than your building? Come on.
Well, this is a beautiful, and it really comes to this: are we the stewards or are we the lords? You know, and how do we understand our obligation?
And, you know, something I didn't say is that I know that, you know, because of a certain level of intelligence, human beings have gained dominion over so much. And look what we've done with it.
Yep.
You know, what about getting back to some kind of more realistic thing that we are not
Which involves
everything.
humility, right? Which is
A little-
humility, right?
Right,
Humility.
right.
And understanding
So-
our real place in the universe. Beautiful, Donna. Thank you so much. Thank you. Beautiful.
Nina Lubin is next.
Just going to close the door. It's a little noisy out here.
Okay. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Spirit, unnameable and indescribable. The potential for good you've created covers earth and heavens with splendor and hope. Kindness from the mouths of babes, unexpected compassion, the historical impulse towards justice, all for those who can see a glimpse of the potential for good, created on account of your foes and ours. To attain its fullness, you have crowned neither sheep nor oxen, neither wild beasts nor birds of heaven, neither fish of the sea nor other seafaring creature. To realize the potential for good, you have chosen us. To marvel at the heed you have paid us, the note you have taken of us, and the majesty in which you've adorned us is meaningless. What matters is the task. Blessed are we, and cursed, with the understanding that we among your creatures must complete your creation. Spirit, unnameable and indescribable, the potential for good you've created covers earth and heavens with splendor and hope.
Wow. Beautiful, Nina. Would you tell us a little bit about writing it?
Thank you. Yeah, thanks. So I found the words glorifying humans in Psalm 8, the inspiration for Shakespeare. I found them troubling, but they did inspire me to kind of collect and organize for myself some big thoughts about life on earth. And usually I move away from that the way I turn off the news when I don't want to hear stuff, but this time they helped me kind of plunge in. So God made us almost godlike, put the world at our feet, made us masters of God's handiwork. And that is a charge that is a crushing responsibility. We're in charge of a planet and all of the life on it. But the charge comes with minimal guidance, minimal guidance. I know we are masters of God's handiwork, but even Genesis itself is not clear about that. Is this domination? Is this protection? Is it a combination of both? If it's both, in what proportion, and who has, what has precedence? God, in God's wisdom, has left the details to us. So for me, the Psalms that we've read and so many of the written responses from all of you have helped me to start to give voice to related thoughts. The rewrite contains the belief, my ever being tweaked, ever in formation belief, that God's creation is suffused with unfilled potential, more, I think, than we can imagine. That it's our job, not God's, to unlock it, and that to do so, nothing original here, to do so is to keep moving steadily, just aiming ourselves inexorably toward the good, toward good. And who's going to define good with a capital G? How are we going to get there? That's where we as individuals and as a species have to fill in the details. And we're doing so daily. But the catch is, it's a terrible, difficult, murderously long process. And sometimes we know the right thing to do. Sometimes we just don't. Sometimes other people make the decision for us. It's hard because malevolence exists in the world.
Yep.
It's hard because it's lifetimes. It's a job of lifetimes. And it's hard because we really can't know that we'll ever succeed, that we will ever get to the full good, to a just world in peace. So what is absolutely vital is hope. And the psalmist knew that. And like the psalmist, I've bookended my version with that, with hope.
Beautiful, beautiful. And really builds on something that Sharon said yesterday, which is Yeshayahu Leibovich's work on Kedusha, on holiness, which is about aspiring to this place. It's not achieving it, it's not getting there, but holiness is the journey, is the aspiration, is the constant reaching and struggling and looking for. Beautiful, Nina. And the language you use is really very moving, very moving.
Thank you. Thank you. It's my first poem since PS 188, third grade.
Oh.
Wonderful. Love that. I just love that.
Ellen Poster can approach the podium.
Hi. Come
Hi.
on down. Remember that?
Come on down.
Down.
Right. So after I sent this in, I did change the last line. So I'll just read it off my screen. And this is in gratitude to this class. In gratitude for Rabbi Kleinbaum and Harold Levine on Zoom, a poem in the style allowed by CBST Psalms class. O you of many names and none, we see your radiance in the rose and the rainbow. We drink in the beauty of your world like a baby at her mother's breast. We look up at the full moon, the North Star, and caught in their splendor, sense your presence. We marvel that you make us in your image, that you call us to partnership. You endow us with discernment, and choosing you brings us closer to our better angels. You share your creative power. Artists, musicians, scientists, and poets are in our midst. We engage with the contradiction in your commands to grow and control. We intervene in the sacred lives of your creatures, whether held by fence and fold or free to roam. You fill the air with virus and bird, and the sea with shark and whale. O you of many names and none, we see ourselves, your creations too, in your image and perfectly beautiful. And then I wrote a coda after the news yesterday that the Trump administration is seeking to deny homeless shelter to trans and non-conforming people. Coda for denial of shelter to trans and gender non-conforming people. Anyone who denies your precious babies made in your image is your foe. Listen to your babies weep. Take up the bow, aim the arrow. Put an end to this evil. Can you hear what's on?
In Yehiratzolim. Beautiful, Ellen. It's hard to keep up with all the terrible news, isn't it? So say a few words about your psalm.
So I saw the psalm as being about ecstasy on the one hand and relationship. And you had taught us that most verses start with verbs, and when they start with pronouns, it's for emphasis. So I started each verse with a pronoun, and there were 5 yous and 5 we's. And part of my inspiration came from Whitman, When Lilacs Last in the Dooryard Bloomed. So that's why the North Star is in there. He uses the West Star, but that idea. I tried to do some alliteration, and at the start, I feel that you, Rabbi, and Harold are definitely our leaders, and Zoom is our instrument, and it can be style of David, right? So I made this. I made this the myriad of styles that you encourage us to do in class, and I made it in the present tense because I do feel that creation is constantly happening, constantly becoming.
Beautiful. Very, very beautiful. And I like that use of a superscription. And imagine in 1,000 years, people reading that superscription, they might not know what all the words mean and be arguing and debating. What's Rabbi Kleinbaum? What's a Harold Levine? Just like we are, even though we totally understand it now. And that's an example of something that to those of us, so it's very moving to us in the specificity, but you can imagine a class in 1,000 years studying your psalm, trying to figure out, are there other examples of a Harold Levine? What's the Zoom? So that's a beautiful superscription. Thank you so much for that. Really beautiful. Could you put it up again, Harold? Just there was a line there that I.
Sure.
We intervene in the sacred lives of your creatures, whether held by fence and fold or free to roam. That's a beautiful way of expressing this power that we have, whether we like it or not. You fill the air with virus and bird, the sense that there's things that are both dangerous and beautiful, and the sea with shark and whale. I think that's just gorgeous, really gorgeous. You of many names and none. Really beautiful.
Thanks,
Thank
Rabbi.
you very much for this. Really beautiful.
Stephen Raphael.
Hello. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
So I just want to say the beginning of mine, the Lamanatseach, is a reference to the album cover by Geula Gil, Songs from the Six-Day War, which if anybody wants to look up, let me see.
I think we've put it in it's on the CBST, it's on the Psalms class Facebook page, and we can put it up again.
Okay, great.
Yeah, that's the best way to share things with everybody so that it's there and it's there in reference.
Okay. Psalm 8, The House on Ferry Road. Hey, Mr. Conductor. Yeah, I'm talking to you, sir. Lamanatseach Shir Mizmor. Listening to Geula Gil in my childhood living room in the suburbs of San Francisco. Looking at her elegant beauty, her pink lipstick, looking at the masculine, beautiful Israeli soldiers surrounding her and her handheld microphone. Alone with my excitement, alone with my joy, alone with my shame.
Wow.
From the mouth of infants, I have found strength. Healer of my broken spirit, enabler of my wounds, counter of the uncountable stars, you know who I am. Lately, I like to put my head into the palm of my hand as I fall asleep, as if I'm cradling myself. I lie with my fears, I lie with my shame, I lie with me. At the end of the road, where lives the house on Ferry Road, there is a perfect crescent beach. Behind me, sitting on the shore, I see privilege and arrogance and fear. And as I enter the gentle water, I think of success and pressure and unfairness. I want pride. I want love. I want. I look in front of me. I do not look to the back. I do not look to the side. I look up. I look out. I look over the tops of gentle waves cradling my soul. I open my eyes. I see clouds and blue and sun. I see God.
Wow, Stephen, that is gorgeous. Could you talk to us about it? And Harold, maybe you could put it back up it's so we could remember it as Stephen talks to us about it.
Well, the Lamanazech, that word, the very first time you
Yep.
said it, I had no idea the importance of that word and the relevance of the word. It was like a trigger for me. I was like, I know that word. I know that word.
Uh-huh.
And so then I went to that album and it was that song. And if you haven't heard that song, it's a beautiful, beautiful song. But also that was almost the first, I mean, I must have been maybe 7 or 8. It was one of the first moments of sort of realizing I was gay, but not knowing it, because she's standing in the middle and she has all these beautiful masculine men, which is not, I didn't think was the point of it. I think it was supposed to be celebrating Israel. But for me, it was very exciting to see all these like beautiful men surrounding this woman who I thought was so elegant. So,
yeah.
And the second part is that I spent a week out in Sag Harbor, which is where Ferry Road is. I don't know if any of you have ever gone to Shelter Island. You have to go down Ferry Road to get to the ferry. And there's a bay there. So I went swimming and it was very crowded with a lot of Hamptons, white, rich, privileged people. And I had an attitude about it. And I was like, oh, these people, they're so, So I went into the water and then I had this revelation of, it's not about them. It's about out, look out, because that's where God.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And isn't it powerful that a word like Lamanatseach stays with you your whole lifetime?
Oh, forever. Like you can, I don't know if any of you have ever taken an acting class or anything like that, but there's something called sense memory, which is when a smell or a touch or a sound elicits an emotional response in you. It's like method acting. So you think about, oh, the turkey my mom made at Thanksgiving. And that's what Lamanatseach does for me. It's like that word puts me right back at being 8 years old.
So that's very Proustian, of course, too. And isn't it, see, this is what I mean about the power of the Psalms. You don't know if it's going to be a single word, a short phrase, or the gestalt of the Psalm that's going to find a way to someplace deep. And all of it is legitimate. All of it, that's what the Psalms are. And and it gets layered on top of layer, layered on top of layer. Fantastic. And through that one word, we got such an insight into the 7 or 8-year-old Stephen, which is a very profound reality. And I bet you if I asked people on this in the class who could relate to that 7 or 8-year-old, 10 or 11-year-old, I bet you most of us can, that there was that kind of moment where there was that. And I just love the image of this gorgeous, and she was gorgeous and very elegant, and with the fingernails and with the, and you think, and you appreciate, as a little gay boy, you appreciated her, you appreciated all of those parts of her. And then all those gorgeous guys surround. What a fantastic image. It's so strong. And what a deep way also we talk about that revelation of ourselves, understanding, there are the Madelines. Oh, Harold, you're the best TA in the world.
Yes, and what's very
funny, sense of self is that understanding of ourselves is a revelation of God, right? And that is what I use. Some of you might remember I gave a sermon about this. When we think about the knowledge of self that comes when, especially when you had never even heard of a gay person or a lesbian, or you'd never heard of same-sex anything, that you start understanding deep something about yourself, you understand what revelation is, right? Nobody's telling you something. It's coming from somewhere so deep, even if it's with pre-language. I'm not saying you had language for it. What you're describing is pre-language, is deeper than language. So moving, Stephen, that the Psalm brings you there. Thank you for that. Beautiful.
Okay.
Yep, I gotta say, it makes me very nervous that you're walking on top of that bridge. Hold on, I gotta let one of my dogs out.
All right. Julia Raynor, you are up next.
Okay.
But in the meantime, hold on, I did find, oh no. sorry, Julia, you are up. Is Julia Rayner here?
I saw her. She's definitely here today.
Unmute yourself, Julia.
Thank you, Harold.
There she.
Excellent.
Welcome, Julia. So happy to have you here.
Thank you. Everybody knows me as Julie, but Julia is my legal name. And Rabbi Kleinbaum, for your beautiful teaching. It's such a pleasure to be participating in the class. I only wish I had been able to be here all along.
We do have the recordings of all these classes. By the way, I don't think the language classes are being recorded, though we could check. We've run out of room. We've been recording too many classes. So I think the decision's been made that this class will continue to be recorded so people can go back and join in. But we're gonna have to start limiting the recordings of other things. We are limited in storage space.
Well, it's an amazing class, really. I just love
it. For all of us.
After Psalm 8, O God, my God, how shall I know thee and speak thy name? Even as a suckling, I longed for your love, my eyes gazing into the heavens, the luminous moon and stars flung across the night sky by the fingers of your hand. Fine-boned as my mother's, I studied and her face to hold their beauty forever. What would you have me, made of your mindfulness, do with the work of my hands? What separates me from you and the angels, even myself, I who am also of this earth, the blue sea and its creatures, your humble mammals, birds sweetly singing, all that passes. Let me see with your eyes, that I may dwell in your ineffable mystery, and know thou art in me, O excellent love, and I thee unto eternity.
Wow, Julie, that is gorgeous. And I loved, I loved your use of thee and thy, but let's talk to us a little bit.
Thank you. I just loved working on this at such a time of profound grief for all of us. It's been a real comfort. I had never written an imitation of a psalm, and I've been so inspired by the class members who have contributed. What sort of prompted my feeling for this was the Fisher version and the Mitchell version. I have a book of Psalms from the 80s that was published by Henry Holt. It's an American publication of a British version of the Psalms from the King James Bible. And there are 9 stanzas, if you will, of Psalm 8 in that book. And so I decided, or it just sort of evolved into tercets. I was really struck by the feeling of separation from God in this reiteration of the idea of dominion, God's dominion, the dominion of the earth, our dominion over other beings. And that seemed to me to be such an expression of our longing for God and for our knowing God and ourselves, and the immersion that we feel separate from in so many ways. And it seemed a very interesting thing to me that it became a very personal psalm, and I just took man right out of it and let my mother come in. It became a really powerful exercise for me in reflecting on the formality that I tried to adhere to in part, as well as the freedom to interpret it.
I love that combination, and I think this is the first one we've seen that has tried to capture a little of that formal language, and it in a very personal, completely new psalm. And I think it works beautifully. It's very exciting, actually, I think, to read that kind of formal language in the middle of a very very personal psalm. And I really think that longing, you got something there. You got your finger on something there. The longing, the wistfulness, the aspiration, that's such the human experience that the psalm tries to express. And I think you capture really beautifully. Thank you, Julie. Very happy to have you here.
Thanks so much.
Julie's a longtime member of the synagogue. I'm not sure everybody knows Julie because Julie hasn't been around for a couple of years. Julie moved to Pennsylvania, I think.
Yeah, we moved down to Pennsylvania 8.5 years ago, actually.
Yeah. Amazing that Zoom makes things possible, right?
Yeah, although I'm actually in New York this morning. We drove up last night. We were here 2 weeks ago for the first time in 4 months. And that was the whole coming here, even though we're only 2 hours away outside of Philadelphia. And I'm following every day everything that's happening here. Yeah. It's not the same as coming.
Yeah.
And wow, to see the city now is profound.
Well, great to have you part of the class, Julie.
Thank you so much.
Lynn Rosenbluth.
Okay. A speck of sand anchors the wave. A grain of salt preserves the world. A drop of blood seasons the soldier. A lone tear unveils the heart. A tiny step propels the journey. A quiet sigh rattles the heavens. A whispered plea parts the sea. A speck of dust frees the sneeze. A fleeting spark ignites the fire that extinguishes the forest. A single cell gives breath or takes life. I am humbled by the trust you place in me. I am strengthened by the trust I place in you. When you look in the mirror, I am the reflection in your eyes.
Wow. Harold, why don't we leave this up while Lynn speaks so that we could be looking
Got
at
it.
It's so helpful. So Lynn, speak to us. This is beautiful.
Thank you. The pivotal thought in the psalm for me is the line, "What is man that you have been mindful of him, mortal man that you have taken note of him?" You know, I grew up in Far Rockaway, a few steps from the beach. And my earliest memories truly are standing at the seashore, at the line where the Atlantic meets the sand, looking across and trying to see Europe. That was the goal. And each year I thought if I got taller, I would see Europe.
But that was really the way kids look at the world. Isn't that just fantastic? Yeah.
That's where I really first feel that I met God. And even though I still have this feeling whenever I'm at a large body of water that I can't see owing to the horizon line, as an adult, I feel more a partnership with God in Kunalam, because I feel minuscule in comparison, certainly to the universe. But I think that perhaps like these small specks or grains of sand or a drop, we can have an impact. And, you know, sometimes just by showing up, maybe that's all God needs us to do at that moment. And that's it.
Beautiful. And I very much love the structure you have here where and your superscription of partners is very powerful. And then the capital U, and your, it really adds a kind of a crescendo to the structure of the psalm that I love very much. And the focus on the small things that are so powerful, and we can easily lose sight of that. A speck of sand, a grain of salt, a drop of blood, a lone tear, beautiful, a tiny step, a quiet sigh, a whispered plea. Just a beautiful rhythm to this that really takes, and again, you took a piece of the psalm and went off from there in a very deep way. So I really, really love it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn, for doing that.
Sarah?
Okay. Get it, David. The rapper raps during the Digital Pride March. Almighty, your name is carved on gravestones of would-be Davids of all genders, lost to AIDS and COVID-19, and arcing across the sky in Roy G. Biv colors. It's enough to make me dance to forget my Davids. I know plenty, excuse me, I know plenty of gay men who would love to dance with Michelangelo's David statue come to life, and who think they have. Your name, God, inspires babies to drool animatedly at all the colors, and enemies to exit the virtual parade and remain on mute. Your fingers cradle the rising moon and shower us with celestial glitter. When we venture into our suburban yards or onto our apartments' rooftops post-parade, all of us, the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, intersex, asexual, and others, you see as not quite God level, but none of us as less than human. You are powerful enough to transform the digital march into a virtual soul train line, even grander to watch than the pairs who marched onto Noah's Ark back in the day. Our sovereign, your majesty, you are the truest dancing queen.
Beautiful, and wow, so wonderful to have this come so deeply from the moment of pride. Speak to us, Sarah.
Well,
by the way, what's the date of your move? So we'll be aware of that.
Thank you, July 16.
July 16, so it's coming up. Okay, great.
So thank you. So Get It was Gitit, but there actually is a really, you know, at your own risk, watch it on YouTube. There's this song, Get It, Girl, and it's really wild. But anyway, anytime I see a musical opportunity in the Psalms, I'm gonna grab it and I'm gonna make it modern. And I could not do anything with Gitit. And so this came to me.
This is pretty good. I'd say this is a pretty clever use
All
of
right. So, and then I really was inspired. I watched some of that World Pride stuff over the weekend. And there was this section in Hamburg or Berlin with like this guy on a truck, you know, throwing glitter everywhere. And that just struck me. And this psalm also felt more celebratory than most of the ones we've been through for the, at least, you know, before we got to the heaviness of our stewardship of the animals. It really felt like, oh, finally I have a chance to just cut loose a little bit. Oops, I'll look at my own.
I can go back.
It's okay. I was just trying to walk through it to remember why, you know, what I cared about here. Yeah, and the baby, I couldn't, I really did love the idea. In fact, I'll speak very personally. There is a photo of me like having just hopped off my mother's breast with like delighted drool, you know, coming down my face. And I'm just like, I'm thinking, that's what struck me when I read that suckling piece. And babies do drool with happiness. So that was another exciting part. And then probably two of the most important messages here for me were this notion that, you know, I think the biggest problem everybody has is seeing us as human. And so I really liked that the original psalm talked about, you know, humans aren't quite God level, but I'll take, like, I don't need to be quite God level. I just need to be seen as human. And at least you, God, you see us that way. And finally, my sisters and I would watch Soul Train and American Bandstand every Saturday afternoon. And I just really enjoyed the idea. And I decided, you know what, it's too heavy. The rest of this psalm was thrilling for me. I'm just gonna make it into a fun march of the animals, either into the Ark or down a Soul Train line. And I'm not even gonna like take the responsibility that this psalm is asking me to take for, you know, being a steward of these animals. And then I really just love the image of God as you know, the ultimate dancing queen, and taking that gender piece that we always talk about God as king, and it just was fun. So that was everything there.
Beautiful. I really love it. And I love some of this language, and also your use of David and the kind of connection between the David of mythic lore, the David of this statue, the David of the Davids of all genders. And I love seeing the Roy G. Biv written that way. For some reason, I just love that. It gives it a certain kind of power. And yeah, I think you've done a beautiful, beautiful job. And I do love the very specific connection to a moment in time. It's not just a universal, and it can be in any moment. You're really reflecting. And again, I'll keep pointing out, somebody asked, are there any LGBT Psalms? Here they are. We're creating them. So really beautiful.
So we're going to go to Lori Crummett. I will just say first that I had worked with this text over and over again, and it wasn't until Sarah said it that I realized that get it is getif. So the importance of these Psalms these poems are made to be read out loud. And that's why hearing them rather than just seeing the text is so important. Now, Lori Krotman, who we had the picture, who trekked the way to the West Coast, and said she was so nervous about making the class that she woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning in Seattle just to make sure she was dialed in time. So Lori, you have the last word here.
Did she go back to sleep?
Lori, are you with us? Lori Krotman, do we see her in chat?
Okay, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, there you are.
Okay, I'm sorry, I was muted. So I wrote this a long time ago. I read it before we even started Psalm 8, and if you can see from my picture there, I'm not usually a grandmother that posts her grandchildren picture, but this was what Psalm 8 meant to me. And many people have said this before. I kind of think of life as we're born, and we have this really, really tiny amount of time that we're connected with the universe. And then my granddaughter Saya already is not connected anymore, but we have that moment. And I think I do anyway, spend my whole life trying to get back to that connected moment when I'm one with the creator, with the creation, with everything. And that's what I was trying to express in here. So here we go. Look, there's a comet streaking by in the sky. Its brightness fills the universe for one eternal second. I touched it. I felt it when I was too young to know anything, before I could speak, before I was struck down by the ravages of the solar system. Surges of light hang low in the sky. They zoom high above the earth. I wear sunglasses to prevent myself from going blind, even though I can take the heat. I dress up in superhero costumes and pretend I'm master of the universe. I hoard my stash of kryptonite and subjugate all whose powers are less than mine. I twirl the universe on my fingertips and shatter whatever crosses my path. But it's not really pretend. It's as real as the dust and gas that make up the comet, swirling forever into a space that's always there. Sigh.
Wow, that's beautiful. Beautiful. And I think on that, we're hitting the end of our time, right, Harold?
Yes, we are.
Lori, thank you so much, and blessings to you and your family and your grandchildren.
Thank you.
We don't have more time to discuss that today, but really, really beautiful. Thank you. It's a gift.
Fine.
Yeah. You read the comments, Lori, and I will send you the saved chat.
Thanks, Harold.
So thank you. And everybody just read your emails. We have special guest lecturers on Monday and Tuesday. Cantor Jacob Nemi will be talking us through what the Psalms might possibly have sounded like and what we can learn about the grammar and meaning from all of the little cantillation marks. And then on Tuesday, Lisa Brown will be talking about the instruments of the Bible.
And I want to just say before we, Harold and I are going to firm up our plans for vacation time this summer, and we'll send out an email, and maybe we'll figure out a time, Harold, either maybe we don't have a 9 o'clock class this Monday. The 9 o'clock classes are suspended for now. maybe at 9:45 we'll talk about it, do you think, or at the end of class, Harold? On Monday?
Maybe at the end of class, because everybody
Okay.
isn't here at 9:45. So we'll go. We may be able to ask Canternimi if we can take his last 5 minutes to discuss our
Okay,
vacation.
so, all right.
But, okay, so Adria, will you play us out?
Beautiful, Adria. Thank you all so much. Thank you so much. And we'll see everybody on Monday at 10 a.m. or 9:45 for some schmoozing. Bye-bye,
right.
everybody. Shabbat shalom. Blessings to everybody.
Bye-bye.
Shabbat shalom.